In this podcast episode, host Andre is joined by Henry Shukman, an authorized Zen teacher, poet, novelist, and creator of the Way app, to explore the essence of Zen Buddhism and its contemporary relevance. The conversation delves into the nature of mindfulness, the paths toward awakening, and how spiritual realization interplays with healing and everyday life. They unpack the contrast between popular mindfulness culture and the deeply connected worldview Zen cultivates, explore the role of meditation and practice as doorway to insight, and discuss the vital relationship between heartbreak, open-heartedness, and love. The episode also touches on the historical development of Zen, the use of Koans as an embodied teaching method, and the transformative power of beauty and compassion in spiritual practice. Henry begins by defining Zen as one of the many forms of Buddhism, distinguished by its simplicity and focus on direct experience rather than elaborate beliefs or doctrinal study. Zen integrates elements of Taoism, which brings a strong emphasis on artistic expression and aesthetics. Unlike other Buddhist traditions with pantheons and liturgies, Zen reduces practice to meditation and living one's ordinary daily life as a continuous extension of that practice. Henry highlights Zen's paradoxical nature. Its core teaching is unnameable and elusive, and when fully realized, Zen self-destructs because it points directly to the immediate experience of this moment. Rather than being a path of escape from the world, Zen is a path into a deeper engagement with the world as it truly is. Henry describes the primary aim of Zen practice as the recognition of an expansive self beyond the limited egoic identity inhabiting the body. This awakening involves seeing that the usual sense of I as a separate entity is an illusion. What is recognized instead is a timeless, spaceless, infinite self that includes all things. This fundamental nature, though unnameable, can be directly experienced as awakening or realization. While this initial recognition is profound, it is only the beginning. The greater work involves integrating and manifesting that insight into everyday life, embodying the realization practically and compassionately. In Zen, awakening is not an ultimate destination, but a continuous unfolding that encompasses life itself. The discussion traces Zen back to its roots in India, with Shakyamuni Buddha, who discovered the middle way and profound awakening. Around 527 CE, the Indian monk Bodhidharma is credited in Zen tradition with bringing the meditative essence of Buddhism, focused primarily on seated meditation, to China. While Buddhism had already been developing in China for centuries, Zen, known as Chan in China, emerged as a distinct, minimalist expression that emphasized practice and direct experience over texts and rituals. Zen later spread throughout East Asia, influencing Japan, Korea, and Vietnam. Henry underscores Zen's connection with Taoism, contributing to its valuing of artistic forms such as poetry, calligraphy, and tea ceremonies, which resonated deeply with him as a poet and writer. Henry critiques much of the modern mindfulness movement for framing mindfulness as a purely personal endeavor or skill to manage stress, often neglecting the profound interconnectedness that mindfulness points to. In traditional Buddhist teachings and Zen, mindfulness is not just about individual attention, but a recognition of being embedded in infinite networks of connection, biological, social, environmental, and spiritual. This insight into interdependence expands mindfulness from isolation toward a communal and universal belonging. Recognizing this connectedness supports a spiritual unfolding that includes community, the Sangha, and a wider context of support, both tangible and archetypal, which nourish spiritual growth. Drawing from his book, Original Love and the Way app's framework, Henry outlines 4 critical dimensions, or ins, that define stages or aspects of the spiritual journey. The first in is mindfulness, becoming aware of one's internal and external experience, especially noticing the incessant and often intrusive inner voice that we mistakenly identify as me. Mindfulness creates the essential gap, allowing space between the thinker and the thought, leading to freedom from being controlled by mental chatter. The second in emphasizes support and connection, both seen and unseen, reminding practitioners that mindfulness is not a solo project, but rooted in community, environment, and even archetypal realms. This recognition invites depth, beauty, and soulfulness into practice beyond sterile individualism. The third in is concentration or absorption, known in Buddhism as Samadhi, which Henry interprets more as flow states. These are moments of effortless and rich awareness encountered in meditation or other activities, ranging from preliminary calming of the mind to highly refined jhana states that represent varying depths of meditative absorption and peace. The fourth and final in is awakening or realization itself, which entails a radical seeing through the illusion of the individual self, a fundamental shift distinct from meditation experiences alone. Awakening is independent of practice in the sense that it can arise spontaneously, though practice prepares the ground for it and helps integrate it. Henry elaborates on the jhana states, meditative absorptions prized in Buddhist practice, as natural, innate human states rather than artificial altered states. He shares a personal story reflecting how early experiences resembling jhana brought relief from childhood suffering. These states progress through increasingly subtle experiences characterized by joy, peace, equanimity, and eventually more formless states such as boundless space or boundless consciousness. While these states are profound and serve as powerful supports on the path, Henry clarifies they are preliminary to full awakening or realization, representing deep but still conditioned states of mind. One of Henry's core messages is that awakening or realization is not guaranteed by meditative practice and can occur spontaneously even without prior practice. He shares a personal moment of radical awakening at age 19, standing on a beach, experiencing the unity of self and world dissolving, followed by being enveloped in an overwhelming love. However, that awakening did not solve all difficulties. Upon returning home, unresolved childhood trauma surged. Thus, awakening and healing are separate yet intertwined processes. Healing, the work of integrating trauma and personal wounding, runs parallel to the trajectory of awakening, which is the realization of true nature. Both aspects constitute the spiritual path and are necessary for living awakened life fully. Henry introduces an ancient metaphor from early Chinese Buddhism describing the spiritual path as a cart track. One wheel is the gradual cultivation of mindfulness and healing. The other is awakening, always present but often glimpsed fleetingly. Healing and awakening run in parallel, supporting each other rather than replacing one another. Awakening opens the heart and mind, exposing unresolved suffering that must be addressed for genuine integration. Henry's own journey exemplified this duality with periods of breakthrough alongside challenging work with trauma, showing the mercy and realism of the path, combining both insight and healing. Asked what distinguishes Zen among contemplative traditions, Henry underscores Zen's commitment to directness, its minimal reliance on dogma, its recognition of realization as accessible to all, and its emphasis on integrating awakening deeply into ordinary life. He refers to the ox-herding pictures, a series of evocative images mapping the unfolding path from seeking to realization, integration, and service beyond awakening itself. Zen is not about escaping the world, but about returning more fully into it with openness and compassion. This approach contrasts with paths that focus on transcendence or withdrawal. A defining feature of Zen training is the use of koans, paradoxical anecdotes, questions, or phrases that defy logical understanding and require embodied insight. Henry explains that koans are designed to disrupt habitual thinking and bring practitioners back to the immediate present moment, pointing directly to non-duality, the inseparability of self and other, form and emptiness. Passing a koan is not about intellectual answers, but about demonstrating one's realization experientially to a teacher, often through nonverbal expression or embodied demonstration. This training reinforces continuous awakening and integration by engaging the entire being, including the body. Henry shares classic examples of koans such as, "What is the sound of one hand clapping?" and "Make Mount Fuji take 3 steps," emphasizing that koan practice keeps awakening alive and rooted in the everyday, rather than turning it into a mere concept. The embodied and relational nature of koan practice facilitates lasting transformation beyond intellectual grasp. Henry stresses the crucial role of consistent meditation practice as a foundation for awakening and well-being. For him, meditation is like daily mental hygiene, a dedicated time to stop doing and simply be, providing a clearing of mental clutter. Even distracted meditation offers a grain of perspective that accumulates over time, fostering awareness, calm, and eventually deeper insight. He recommends daily short sessions over sporadic longer ones and highlights that his Way app offers a structured, progressive path guiding learners through mindful awareness, connection, absorption, and awakening dimensions. The practice creates the container in which realization can naturally arise, allowing the real dog owner of consciousness to reveal itself once the restless monkey mind is engaged. The conversation turns to the experience of beauty as a profound dimension connected to awakening. Henry describes how realizing our interconnectedness heightens sensitivity to the beauty present even in the mundane, the light on the road, the ordinary landscape, simple tea ceremonies, or a peaceful dawn. Beauty is not merely an external aesthetic, but a recognition arising from within a heart opened by insight. He illustrates this through his poem Sweeping the Yard, which celebrates how even daily chores become a portal to presence and awakening. Beauty serves as an expression of the awakened heart's participation in the world and rewires our relationship to ethics and compassion by revealing the intrinsic value and wholeness of all things. Henry highlights the inseparability of wisdom and compassion in Buddhist practice. True awakening dissolves the sense of fundamental separation, naturally engendering a profound love and compassion for all beings. This empathetic connection motivates engaged action and care in the world rather than withdrawal or apathy. He notes contemporary research distinguishing empathy as feeling with and compassion as an energizing response that propels altruistic action. Awakening expands our capacity not only to perceive suffering, but to respond with motivated, loving kindness, making spiritual realization inseparable from meaningful ethical involvement. Expanding on the theme of the open heart, Henry explores how heartbreak and grief serve as catalysts for opening the heart more fully. He reads another poem, Frozen Lake, which honors those whose hearts have been broken and made vulnerable. Rather than being to be avoided, grief is a gateway to deeper wakefulness and truth. Through heartbreak, the brittle false self cracks open, allowing genuine love and presence to emerge. The pathway from breaking to an open heart to living wholeheartedly embraces paradox. Pain becomes growth, and vulnerability becomes strength. This open heart is essential for truly living and recognizing life's depth. Henry reflects on transformative experiences of death beyond the physical, describing moments when the sense of self and even the seeker disappear entirely. He recounts a profound moment in his Zen training when all experience ceased, not as an experience, but as the ending of experience itself, leaving a deep sense of freedom and an altered orientation to life. This non-dual annihilation dismantles clinging to identity, awakening one to a boundless presence beyond concepts of self and other. Such moments represent critical turning points on the path, enabling a fuller embodiment of awakening that surpasses fluctuations between delusion and insight. Throughout the conversation, Henry and Andre emphasize the mature intellect's capacity to hold paradox, recognizing that awakening is both always present and yet experienced over time, that it coincides with healing but is distinct, and that spiritual realization enfolds ordinary life rather than separating from it. The path involves circulating among realization, embodiment, and compassionate service, not a linear progression to a fixed goal. The analogy, water heats gradually and boils suddenly, aptly describes how insights accumulate and can suddenly transform one's perception and being. This fluid, inclusive approach rejects rigid dualities and embraces the complexity of experiential living. In closing, Henry advocates for making stillness and quiet a non-negotiable daily practice in a world saturated by distraction, technology, and external demands. He stresses that meditation cultivates the essential invitation to be beyond doing, offering a stable foundation for seeing clearly and awakening fully. Even moderate consistency builds cumulative benefits, enabling glimpses of our true nature. Supporting this, his Way app provides a guided and integrative framework to make practice accessible and sustainable. Cultivating this space within oneself is not only personally transformative, but has the potential to shift collective consciousness. Henry points listeners to his books Original Love and One Blade of Grass for deepening engagement with these themes, as well as thewayapp.com for practical guided meditation resources. The episode ends with a resonant affirmation. At our core, we are love, the fundamental essence to discover and embody amid life's challenges and beauty. This message offers comfort and encouragement in turbulent times, inviting a heartfelt, grounded, compassionate engagement with self and world.